All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. We're going to go ahead and start now. My name is Gay Jones, and I'm chair for the Cordova CPAC, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Good afternoon or evening, CPAC members. Member Haven?
Present.
Member Leinbach?
Here.
Member Stahl?
Present.
Chairperson Jones?
Here.
And you have a quorum. Let the record reflect that Member Garcia and Member Mitchell and Member Thomas are not present at the time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now, would everyone within your space that you're at, everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Introductions. I can go ahead and start. Again, my name is Gay Jones. I'm chair for the CPAC, at least for tonight. And I represent the Butterfield Riviera East Community Association in the unincorporated area of Sacramento County in the Cordova community. Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, Member Haven. I represent Gold River, aka East Rancho Cordova.
Thank you. Terry, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Member Terry Lineback, and I represent the Rosemont area in unincorporated Sacramento County.
And Chris.
Yes, my name is Chris, and I represent Gold River.
Good evening, everyone. Is there any member that has signed up that I failed to mention? All right. Thank you very much. We do have some CPAC announcements. I believe Florence Evans is our clerk tonight. Florence, would you please read the CPAC announcements?
Yes, this meeting is live streamed and closed to in-person public participation temporarily. The clerk's office is in the process of hosting hybrid public meetings that will provide board members and members of the public with the option to participate in the meeting either in person or remotely. Thank you for your patience and support. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make a verbal comment. Written comments are always accepted. You can send your email to boardclerk@saccounty.net. And your comment will be routed to the CPAC members and filed in the record. And that concludes my announcements.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Tonight, we have one main item regarding Easton Place Land Use Master Plan Amendment. Let's see. Would staff like to start with the general overview, and then we can go to the applicant? Then we can go to members' comments, questions.
Okay, thank you. This is Jessica Brandt, Senior Planner with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. I'll be giving your overview of this application. As the chair stated, this is the Easton Place Land Use Master Plan. Next slide, please. As we state for all projects, planning documents are available through our planning document viewer, planning projects viewer. You can access it through this link and type in the control number for this particular application or just search for any application you'd like. Next slide. So I am going to deviate a little bit from this slide here. This is our standard location slide, and it provides the actual properties that are part of this application highlighted in red. But this particular set of properties are part of a larger land use master plan area called Easton Place, which is in turn part of a larger special planning area of Aerojet. And so I wanted to step back for a moment. I'm not sure if the council is familiar with this overall development in the plan. And I apologize for not having a larger scale exhibit. I didn't think about that before I put this together. But generally, the Aerojet SPA what is approximately 8,000 acres within our Cordova community. It's bounded by the Folsom South Canal and the City of Rancho Cordova boundaries on the west, Folsom Boulevard on the north, Prairie City Road, White Rock Road, Grant Line Road on the east, and White Rock Road on the south. So it's pretty large. The SPA was created to develop a regulatory mechanism for land uses in the Aerojet Rocketdyne operation area. And as part of the overall reuse, sort of reimagining of the site, several years ago, Aerojet requested that about 3,200 acres along the Highway 50 corridor be carved out of the overall Aerojet SPA area and brought in as separate land use planning areas, which they have called boroughs. 2 of these areas, there were 6 originally envisioned, 2 of them have county-approved land use master plans. One is the Easton Place Land Use Master Plan, which this project is part of. The second is Glenboro at Easton, which is to the east of Easton Place. And both of those were done in about 2009. And I haven't seen a whole lot of activity, but are starting to see more development interest. And this is part of the reason why we're here tonight is the current interest is in large-scale commerce supporting centers. And so they're looking to clarify some of the uses that are allowed here to accommodate those sorts of uses. So I just wanted to give that kind of overview. Our applicants have been with these properties for many years, and I'm sure can provide additional overview once I'm done with the presentation. So I would be sure to ask them if they have anything to add on that. So next slide, please. So the actual request that's coming through is a zoning ordinance amendment. And, oh no, it went away. Okay, there we go. To the Aerojet Special Planning Area Ordinance, so that's the overall SPA ordinance, and then also to the Easton Place Land Use Master Plan, which is this focused area for the Easton Place properties. To include large format logistics centers and commerce parks in the market district of the land use master plan, which we call the lump. And the area in question that would allow this change of use is approximately 72.5 acres. Next slide. So this is the current area of the Easton Place lump. It's split into 3 districts. The transit-oriented district is at the north. There's a central district, regional, or kind of a central retail and housing district offices in the center. And then the district that's highlighted in color is the market district. And this district has currently a land use plan that shows kind of a regional commercial center over about half of it, office, commercial retail in a quarter, and then neighborhood commercial retail in another quarter. Next slide. The proposed changes would look at taking this market district as a whole and allowing flexibility in what's allowed to permit either a single use commerce center that would take up the entirety of the 72.5 acres, or a potential like a logistics campus where you have multiple users on their own properties with some circulation in between them, and or an embedded logistics center. So you might still have some retail, some park land, and then also the logistics kind of built into that. There isn't necessarily any particular developer that they're working with at this time. This is, again, the applicants can speak to this more, but the idea is that it's setting this up to be a potential area to be developed in this way. So there aren't any particular development plans to review at this time, but they do include in their land use master plan update, which I believe you got a copy of with your materials, some renderings of the sort of expected design of these various warehouse buildings and landscaping and the like. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch on with this particular slide is you can see the access points that they're showing between large trucks and then or commercial vehicles and private vehicles. The commercial vehicle traffic is, it'll all be designed to funnel up to Hazel and then go out to the freeway that way. Glenboro at Easton, which is the land use district that is more residential, that is to the east, wouldn't see this sort of heavy truck traffic. This would stay over to the west. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there as well. Next slide, please. So key points, I touched on a few of these. The amendment will only affect this marked district of the lump. The whole purpose is just to update what's allowed in this particular district. So the area around the transit station remains as designed, as sort of envisioned. Same with the central area. The purpose is to clarify that a commerce support service is allowed in this market district. The current land use master plan and SPA language do allow uses that are permitted under the GC zoning, which is general commercial. But under general commercial, it's a warehouse is allowed, but other sort of supportive services or items that come into play with one of these commerce supporting uses isn't necessarily part of that. So something like cold storage or a truck depot wouldn't necessarily be allowed. So they're trying to sort of clarify that those sorts of uses would be permitted here. And finally, the decision body of this is the Board of Supervisors, as it is a zoning ordinance amendment. And so with that, that is the end of staff's presentation. As I said, I'll say again, the applicants are here, and I'm sure they can add to this presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate that overview. So we have, let us hear from Mr. Hatch, the applicant representative.
Thank you, Chairwoman Gay. I'm pleasure to be on the phone in the meeting tonight. I'm David Hatch, Vice President, Chief Operating Officer of Easton Development Company. That's the real estate division of the parent company of Aerojet. If it's okay, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or give any history. Been with the company for 19 years, working on the lands of Easton. But this evening, also on the line is our land use counsel, Mr. Roy Brewer, and Roy's got a presentation and a walkthrough. So if it's okay with the The CPAC, I'll turn it over to Roy, but I'll stay on the line to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. So, Mr. Brewer, you're up. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Good evening. I want to thank you for taking the time tonight to hear our presentation. I noted that we are the only item on your agenda. I'm sure there are other things you might be doing tonight. I appreciate your taking the time to hear us. Jessica, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to kind of set the stage with a little bit of history. The general plan amendment was approved in December of 2008, and the zoning was approved, as I recall, in January of 2009, right in the midst of the Great Recession. And even though we are often told that the Great Recession ended in 2009, for the building industry, the recession didn't end for several more years. And in the intervening 12 and a half years since the plan was first approved, there have been some opportunities for development, but as you know, nothing yet has been constructed there. The plan, I think, was very wise in that it expressly contemplated flexibility and innovative design. It expressly contemplated responding to market-driven uses, and it also expressly contemplated dynamic market conditions and changes in circumstances. And I think what has brought us here tonight is all those things are in play. Two opportunities have presented themselves in the past year, both for the same type of development, e-commerce logistics centers like Jessica mentioned, although the two opportunities were at different scales. One proposal would have taken only a portion of the market district. The other proposal would have consumed the entire market district and have been devoted to a single user. Neither of those has come to pass. However, that two proposals of the same type of development have been received in the past year, we believe, is evidence that a market exists for this type of use in this specific area. If it were to happen, a development such as this would jumpstart the plan area, all of Easton Place, might bring as many as 1,000 jobs to the area, and will contribute by way of the Sac County Transportation Development Fee to improvements to the Hazel Avenue interchange. So with all of that, we thought it prudent to do several things. One, acknowledge the flexibility inherent to the plan to accommodate changes in market dynamics. Next, to acknowledge that the plan accommodates this specific use under specified circumstances. Clarify the plan to ensure that this specific type of use and similar uses are expressly acknowledged as permitted uses and not subject to interpretation of the plan at a later date. And then to supplement the plan or augment the plan by inserting language that we have presented and was included in your agenda packet to identify the conditions under which this type of use can proceed, including augmentation of the development standards in Chapter 5 of the original plan and the design guidelines in Chapter 6. And to do all of this as quickly as possible so we don't lose another opportunity to see development commence. It is presented as an amendment to the land use master plan. We think of it as an addendum because, in our view, we are clarifying the intent of the plan. The plan clearly states, on page 72, the plan clearly states that the uses contemplated in the market district include all those uses within the commercial categories of the zoning code. E-commerce logistics centers and warehouse distribution centers have been allowed elsewhere in the county in the GC zone, and with that precedent, similar warehouse distribution centers would be permitted in the district. Now, a question may arise about whether an e-commerce logistics center is consistent with the language in the plan promoting a walkable mixed-use environment. And our response is, we're clarifying that this use in the district does not change the walkable character of the plan area, as each of the districts within the plan will continue to be linked by a street pattern flowing from the transit district to the north through the central district and to the market district, all as originally envisioned in the plan. This particular clarification does not change that at all. So rather than redline the entire document, we chose to clarify the intent by way of this addendum, again, which you've seen in your packet. And we show where we would insert language and we would insert illustrations where illustrations would be helpful, corresponding to the chapters in the plan. And in that way, we make sure that we address each subject matter area of the plan by chapter and demonstrate how an e-commerce logistics center would fit within the existing framework of the plan. We're also very alert to the idea that site design must be sensitive to the context of surrounding uses. And we've addressed that in chapters 5 and 6 of the addendum related to development standards and design guidelines. For example, Eastern Valley Parkway is shown in the plan as a 176-foot right-of-way, which includes a 39-foot landscape setback on the north and a 39-foot landscape setback on the south. Our proposed design guidelines for an e-commerce center speaks to incorporating landscape buffers with undulating variable height earth berms to reduce potential visual conflicts. And lastly, we would not advance an idea that would diminish our ability, or Easton's ability, to market the whole of the property and fulfill the vision of the plan. So the market district will continue to be a region serving commercial use, as was intended in the plan. The market district will serve as an employment center with this type of use, also as intended in the plan. Recall that the plan contemplates, in fact designates, 935,000 square feet of office, commercial, and retail space in the market district. That means it's an employment center. And a logistics center will likewise be an employment center. The walkable mixed-use environment of the market district may be achieved in all but one of the three scenarios we describe in the addendum. And that one example is that of a single user taking the entirety of the district. The walkable mixed-use environment of the whole of the plan is not affected by this clarification. Neighborhood commercial that might be displaced by a logistics center can easily be accommodated in the central district and is already contemplated by the plan. And neighborhood commercial in the central district makes more sense today than in the market district, because neighborhood commercial in the central district would be close to the higher density residential housing, therefore closer to customers. And there'd be no need for a resident of the central district to cross the 176-foot right-of-way of Eastern Valley Parkway to get to the market district, nor would there be a need for a resident in the central district to drive to the market district. And then lastly, any application for all or any portion of the market district may affect the park site that's shown in the plan. If the park site were to be relocated or the size of the park were to change, that would require a negotiation with the CRPD. And it would also require an amendment to the plan, as well as an amendment to the park development agreement that we have with CRPD. And we're not at that point yet. So let me address what the application is not. We are not amending the plan to add a new use. The use is already contemplated by the plan by its inclusion of uses within the commercial zones, the county zoning code. And this is not a tentative map, nor is it a development plan. That will come later, probably by someone else, when a specific development application is submitted to the county. So I'll close with a restatement of what we're doing. We're clarifying that this particular use is allowed in the commercial zone to the county zoning code. It is expressly contemplated and allowed in the market district by the words of the plan itself. The flexibility to accommodate an e-commerce center is precisely the type of dynamic market conditions and changes in circumstances that the plan anticipated. And an e-commerce center can be accommodated while preserving the walkable mixed-use environment envisioned for the plan. Madam Chair, that's my summary. I'd be happy to entertain and answer questions to the extent that I can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Brewer. We'll try to have a little back and forth here. Let's see. Well, Kurt, do you have any particular questions or comments for Mr. Brewer or Mr. Hatch?
Good evening, Mr. Brewer. You know, a lot of times when we see projects like this, you just see the map of the area that we're discussing. Is there something that shows, and you verbally talked about the connectivity, but is there a map or something that shows that we could see the connectivity between this and the other zones?
One of the slides that Jessica used, I don't recall which one, but one of the slides shows the land use plan. It might have been slide number 3 or 4. There.
Okay.
Okay. So the market district are the ones shown in color at the bottom. The street network that I mentioned in my presentation is the north-south streets flowing from the transit stop in the very north through the central district and then stopping, if you will, at Easton Valley Parkway. So all of that remains intact. And so if you live, for example, in the transit district or the central district, you would still have all the access as shown on this exhibit to the market district.
Okay. Great answer. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anything else, Kurt, for now? I mean, you could jump back in whenever you want.
No, very
Anything
good
else?
information. Thank you. I'm in.
Okay, good.
No more questions.
All right. Terry, Miss Terry Linebeck, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have comments mainly, I guess. I was sort of bemused reading the board packet and hearing the presentation tonight about how this is all already permitted under the plan. So it made me sort of wonder, then why is this being presented if the plan already, envisions such a thing happening? So I guess that is kind of a question and a comment. And then the other thing, I have a particular interest in parks because I am, also a member of the Cordova Recreation and Park District Board of Directors. And I do know that some of the ideas for how to accommodate the 5.5 acres of parkland is to split it up, and that is less than ideal. A couple of smaller sort of green spaces is never as good as a larger park that can accommodate more, a senior moment, but,
Increased uses.
Yeah, increased uses. Thank you very much, Gay. So a larger park is always better than two small ones. And many of the options shown for the parkland were to have the two smaller parks. I was also a little bit concerned about moving, even though it showed it, sort of bordering the area, but, moving the fire station, specifically out of that area. But I don't know, perhaps Gay would have wanted to ask that question anyway. So those are the things that stood out for me, was that I was a little bit confused about why we were even, sort of given this presentation that supposedly already, is within the expected use of the land. And then I'm concerned about the parkland and the moving of the fire station. Those are my comments.
May I respond?
Please, I'm done. Thank you.
Actually, this is Chris Pahuli with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. Mr. Brewer, if you don't mind, I'll just answer the first portion from county planning's standpoint.
Thank you, Chris. Yep.
And then you can definitely also, if the CPAC members would like you to kind of follow up, that would be appropriate as well. But whereas it is true that the planning department is in agreement that that a logistics center could be viewed as an appropriate use pursuant to our zoning code and the Easton Place plan. On the this exhibit that's on the or the graphic that's on the screen is a good one to use. Whereas we could view that M1 portion of the site as being consistent with a logistics center pursuant to the plan. We would look the kind of utilization of the entire site, the entire market district site for a logistics center, given the other uses, as you mentioned, the park site and other descriptions in the plan for office, commercial retail, as well as neighborhood commercial retail. Planning made a determination that a change of that magnitude to allow the logistics center in that entirety of the market district and the reallocation of uses throughout the remainder of the plan area would be a major amendment to the Easton Place land use master plan, as well as the Aerojet special planning area. And so the package that will be before the core pack at some point with an actual recommendation will be for an amendment, an SPA amendment to reflect changes to the plan. I hope that answered the question that you had about why the item was before the CPAC. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Terry, did you have any further questions at this time?
No, I don't have any further questions. No, thank you.
All righty. Chris, do you have some questions or comments?
No, I think it's pretty clear. I feel good about the information presented.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Again, if any other council members have questions or comments that come up, just I don't have a raise your hand function right here, but just speak up. Yeah, I had the same concerns that that Terry expressed. So this is not a clarification. This is it will eventually be a major amendment per county staff. Is that a correct statement?
We don't believe that's a correct statement.
So, and again, we're not here to harass each other, but so is this arising from a conflict point of view between county planning and the applicant? And I'm not sure who would be.
Madam Chair, may I respond? I can respond. Chris Bahuli is absolutely correct Chapter 9 of the land use plan speaks to implementation. It contemplates dynamic changes in the marketplace, and it also speaks to minor amendments and major amendments. I'm an advocate for the applicant, and we advocated to Chris and to Leanne that we believe the uses permitted on page 72 of the plan expressly contemplate and allow this use. That argument was not persuasive, and as Chris pointed out, staff considers this to be a major amendment, and that's why we're in the process we're in. We continue to think of it as a clarification, but regardless, we're going through the process and we're presenting to you our case for the matter. Answering questions about parks, our inclusion of the way we address parks in the addendum serves several purposes. One, the staff asked us to address the possibility that the park site might be lost, might need to be moved, etc. And we wanted to be thorough in what we presented to the staff and to you. And so the ideas expressed in the addendum, again, this is not a development application, but they are ideas to demonstrate that we have thought through what might happen to that park. And one possibility would have been to relocate the park in whole or in part into the central district, in our view, close to the residents who will live in parcel C5. I talked with Laura Taylor on the CRPD late Monday morning. We received her comments late yesterday afternoon. We will continue to have conversations with her, and it's not our intent, once again, that anything in the addendum should be construed as this is the way we think it should be. It was to illustrate that we had thought through the idea and it presented some ideas for consideration. But I believe I acknowledged in my comments, in the event that the park were to be displaced by a commercial use, by an applicant, not by Easton, but by a subsequent purchaser, they would have to negotiate with the CRPD. We'd have to amend the plan and amend the park development agreement. I don't think we're in conflict there.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Brewer.
I'm finished.
Sorry, this is Mr. Hatch. I want to thank Roy for walking through that, because that was the point that I was going to elaborate on. Is that and we've had. I want to thank both Jessica and Chris Palui and everybody at the county. We have a very good working relationship with the county and the folks in Cordova. We're not coming forth to the county today, as Roy said, with a development application. We're not saying rezone it. We're simply trying to clarify that it is indeed an allowed use, so that if there's another user with 800 or 1,000 jobs, we can say, yes, it is allowed, but if you have a development application, you're going to have to do A, B, C, and D. Maybe it involves a potential idea of a change to the park site. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it only involves 25 acres. Maybe it involves 50 acres. But I happen to agree with the comments from, I believe it was Miss Alondra, about the parks. I get it. And don't forget, we're not sort of trying to view this in any way as being short-sighted, because we have thousands and thousands of acres that, we have to do things right in each area so that it benefits the adjacent area, and the connectivity of the plan and the coherency of the plan stays intact. But at the same time, Roy said, we're trying to respond here in the year 2021 to what the marketplace wants and needs. And we're simply trying to lay out, as we were asked to by the county, where they said, well, how would you go about, we understand you're not doing it now, but how would you go about tackling potentially the park issue? And so that's the basis of the information we've provided to the county, to Chris and Leanne and to Jessica. So I just hope that helps round out the context that Easton is not coming forth to the county or CPAC and saying, we think it's the best idea to move the 5.5 acre park. We are saying that we've got a lot of land out there, and depending on what a future applicant comes forth, there may or may not be a way, subject to negotiation and further approval, to be able to make it work.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Thank you. I have there's a twofold thing, two parts going on in my head, two questions here. One is a specific question perhaps for county staff, either Mr. Pahuli or Ms. Brandt. Is there something specifically not an allowed use within the present plan?
No.
Oh, go ahead, Chris, if you want to take that. That's fine.
Well, I was just going to say that not really a use issue. I think is the Kent team mentioned. I don't think planning staff really take any exception to the proposed logistics center distribution warehouse use, and it being consistent. It's really just a matter of the plan itself and the land use plan exhibit or graphic that's in front of you is being pretty prescriptive about what was to occur there, and and as they mentioned, they're seeking some flexibility. So it really is not really an issue with consistency with use, but really just the other development standards, design guidelines, and so forth that are in the plan document that they're seeking some flexibility from.
Okay, so I'm trying to characterize this in my mind. So it was enough of a change to hit a critical mass to initiate the production or whatever of a major amendment?
That's correct.
Okay, so it was the size of it, so to speak. All right, thank you. Now, I have some other specific ones. Maybe somebody could briefly tell me about this. Kurt Haven touched on traffic and connectivity, and I'm wondering, I did chat with Jessica earlier this week about the larger picture, and there are about 3 things. One is how can the Southeast Connector fit into some of the traffic flow here? And what about, you mentioned one interchange upgrade. What are the interchanges that are planned? And then the third was just the distance from the light rail. I didn't have a scale handy to measure the distance. So Southeast Connector, interchange upgrades, and distance from light rail. Anybody?
Roy,
well, go ahead. You want me to take the Southeast Connector question? Sure.
Again, this is David Hatch. Great question, Gay. As I'm sure most everyone on the call knows, in the middle of the year 2017, Aerojet Rocketdyne made the decision to move its operations, manufacturing, engineering operations off of this current site. There's still around in excess of 400 employees there at the site. But that decision to start that process in 2017, which ended at the end of last year, has now, I'll use the phrase, opened the door to initial planning and conversations that we have been having with county transportation about the how and when and where a potential connection coming southbound of Hazel Avenue from Highway 50 would come along the south of Folsom Boulevard, come along the western boundary of Easton Place, and then continue south for several miles through the Aerojet property holdings to the southeast connector. We've had initial conversations with the County Department of Transportation. We've had initial conversations with the JPA. We are open to that. We are, of course, open to that because it was probably 15 years ago that I took the podium in front of the Board of Supervisors when they were updating their countywide general plan. And at the time, 15 years ago, I had to take to the podium and say, Exhibit 67, whatever there shows a road through the Aerojet site, you got to take that off the map because that's not going anywhere in the next 50 to 100 years. That's, things change. So we are already not only open and willing, but we've already started spending some of our own money proactively on initial studies and alignments and things like that to be able to have that conversation with Sacramento County Transportation and the JPA to figure out a way, Gay, to enable that in the future planning efforts of the county and of Easton. How, exactly where it goes, what the timing is, how it gets funded, all to be determined.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, thank you, David, on that. So in terms of the highway interchanges and all that, those are more specifics that will be developed in the not too distant future.
Well, this is Roy again. There is a public facilities financing plan. Also, there are 100 or so conditions of approval related to Easton Place and Glenboro. Then there's a infrastructure financing plan, a PFFP, that combines infrastructure requirements for both projects. And I will acknowledge that I do not have all of those details committed to memory. But I do know that in each case, there are roadway improvements that extend to various interchanges, but most notably the Hazel Avenue interchange, as well as roadways in all directions from the project. I just don't have them committed to memory to give you specifics.
Okay.
And then as to proximity to the transit stop, if you look at the exhibit and you see the designation C2 in the Central District, there's an arc that goes right along that line of C2, and that arc represents a quarter mile from the transit stop. Then if you look at the parcel M2, and you'll notice to the left, there's a little notch almost level with M2. If you were to draw an arc through there, that would be a half mile from the transit stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that exhibit is this exhibit with those two additions is on page 10 of the land use plan.
All right. Thank you very much for that clarification. Did someone else want to add something to that? Okay. Hearing no one at this time, I'm going to move ahead. Yeah, as a member of Metro Fire Board of Directors, I did touch base with our economic lead on these things, and my understanding, talking with Mr. Fry and then as well with Jessica earlier, that building height isn't going to drastically change. Is that at least right now? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Jessica also mentioned to me that if there was any use that would be deemed a hazardous hazardous use, that would have to come back for special use, et cetera, which would that would trip another review. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yeah, if it's a facility that's considered a hazardous waste, either a transfer facility or treatment facility, those are a different category under the zoning code.
Okay, thank you. And then just another quick thing. I'm trying to move this along here. I want to thank Member Linebuck for talking about the park as well as the fire station. I will admit here in public, I didn't notice a change. So could someone briefly tell me where the fire station is supposed to be relocated? That it's very much a concern, because at Metro Fire, it's a very organic, it's a very ecological type of way we have to look at response times and station locations. So could someone briefly tell me where it was and where it's supposed to go to? I don't know that my economic development guy knew this.
This is Roy Brewer again. The land use plan does not identify a specific parcel within the Easton Place plan for a fire district. It does say that a fire station should be located in parcel M1 or M2 near Easton Valley Parkway, with the exact location to be, I'm going to say, negotiated with the fire district. That's as far as it goes. So what we did in the addendum was to show, again, somewhat like we did with parks, here are a couple of different places where a fire station might go.
Yeah. Well,
Gay, I would like to, this is Mr. Hatch, I'd like to stress again, we are not formally proposing a change to the location of the fire station. We're not formally proposing a change to the location of the park. County staff asked us, put my term, nobody else's, to put more meat on the bones, that if a subsequent applicant came through to put more things in the development standards and the design guidelines to be able to potentially address a medium-sized or larger-sized e-commerce center. And so that's why Roy and I continue to use the word clarification, so that the East Place land use master plan is more robust with the rules of the road for a potential subsequent application.
Okay, well, I'm sure it sounds like we're going to have some more discussion on all these different things as more of the pieces of the puzzle come into play in terms of, applicants and development happening there. I want to come to my second kind of thing floating around here in my head, is that it says in our notes, it says Cordova CPAC will make a recommendation to the county Sacramento Office of Planning and Environmental Review. And maybe staff can help me on this. I'm not quite sure what wording of a motion or what is being asked for here from the CPAC.
Yes, this is Jessica. So I think what's being asked from the CPAC for this application is a recommendation related to the zoning ordinance amendment that they're requesting. So the amendment or clarification, or however you want to classify it, to permit or clarify that these logistics centers are an allowed use in the market district. They could potentially be in there in different forms, that they could take up the entire market district. And I think as you were stating, a lot of those specifics related to the parks or the park site and then a fire station would be addressed at the time that there would be a developer coming in and siting. There could be the plan states that a fire station will be in M1 or M2, but the exact location is, up for negotiation. So I think it would be something where if they could make it work to continue to have that fire station there and the Commerce Center, they're good to go. That wouldn't need to be addressed later. But if they did need to move it entirely, then that would be likely another thing we would have to look at and potentially bring them back through for an amendment. So, yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Jessica. All right. To my fellow members here, the question before us is to, I guess, affirm that a logistics center is an allowable use with the Easton Plan. Are there any further questions about that? And if not, I'll entertain a motion for a recommendation.
No questions.
Okay.
Well, this is Member Lineback. I guess I don't mind putting forward a motion to say that it could be an allowed use under the existing plan, with the understanding that it would be coming back if such a major change were to happen. It would still, need an additional amendment. So I would move yes.
Okay. I can second that, and you know what else we can do here, though, folks, is to delineate these concerns as subheadings for our recommendation. And I would like to second that with highlighting of two concerns. One is for the future park dedication, not to be split. And then the other one would address the fire is, if there's a building height or a concern about water flow and so on, we're going to have to, that has to be in compliance with the fire code anyway. So that those are two areas that deserve and will have future attention as we go through this process. Is that okay for the motion maker?
It is indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, we call out concern for the parks dedication and call out concern for adequate fire protection. I mean, you get into fire flows and access and setbacks and building height, etc. But those details are for later.
So,
okay.
Madam Chair?
Sir, go ahead.
Just another maybe question or statement. Mr. Brewer, isn't this land use plan used as a marketing tool basically to land a user, and then when that user comes, they will obviously come back with their requirements, and we'll see changes in a land use plan or changes in a map. I'm not really comfortable putting those additions onto the motion because we don't know who the user is and what their intentions are. And this is just a big planning map that's going to be a marketing piece. That's what it's for. Am I correct or am I off base, Mr. Brewer?
This is Roy Brewer. I know you're correct that Easton uses this exhibit, the one that's on the screen, as a marketing tool. Absolutely.
So for us to pick where parks go, where fire stations go, et cetera, it seems a little early for that. I mean, they're important to me, and I agree. I like to see larger parks, only if they're active, not passive. And then the fire, that just happens naturally under the code, et cetera. I'm a little uncomfortable, making those requirements on a large land use plan that basically its use is to go out and find users, not to actually build off of.
I agree.
Kurt, I agree. Okay. This is Gay. Yeah, my concern was that in the notes to this, again, it's just a recommendation, is that Cordova CPAC, the park areas and fire service delivery are ongoing issues for us. Well, not to say issues, but
Areas of interest.
Areas of interest, right? Well, I want everybody on board on this. I'm not going to push it if I think we need to have a good consensus on this.
I'd agree, Gay, with Kurt, because I feel like we're getting too much in the weeds in this. I feel like that this is such a high level thing of what we're looking at right now that it's going to come back and it's going to come back and it's going to come back. I mean, I definitely hear what both of you guys are saying about the parks and about the fire stations. I just, in working in this industry, I know that like we're going to see this thing a lot more and we're going to have a lot of other concerns that it comes around. That stuff right now is a little bit too in the weeds at this high level view. That's my opinion. Again, just want to share.
No, thanks, Chris. And if we were talking face to face, this would have moved a little bit more smoothly along. I think Terry, if it's okay with you, the minutes.
Yeah,
from this
sure. I mean,
will delineate.
Sure, I'm not opposed.
These expressed concerns for the future.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to eliminate it, I'm not going to follow my sword over that, but it was specifically addressed in what was put in front of us. So, these aren't invented concerns here.
Right.
But yeah, I'm okay with removing them if that's the consensus. I wouldn't oppose the motion if those notes were removed.
Okay. Well, I want those notes to be clearly in the minutes in case 2 years from now someone comes back and says, oh, CPAC wasn't worried about it, because we are. But I agree with all my fellow members that we want to go ahead and move this thing forward.
Chairperson Gay, this is Florence Evans, the clerk, and we will definitely get the comments, the concerns in the minutes, in the action summary notes. So I don't think that would be a problem at all, and you could move forward with the recommendation as proposed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and for the record, before we do the roll call vote, I just want to show that Member Leinbach made the motion, and then Chairperson Jones, you seconded that motion, and then I'll wait for you to direct me to take the roll call vote.
All right. Are there any further comments or questions from fellow members? If not, please call the roll.
Okay. Member Haven?
Yes.
Member Leinbach?
Aye.
Member Stahl?
Yes.
And Member Jones?
Aye.
Okay, and that's a unanimous vote with those members present. Let the record reflect that members Garcia, Mitchell, and Thomas are absent.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move on to miscellaneous matters. Item number 2, staff up. Oh, first of all, I wanted to thank Mr. Brewer and Mr. Hatch, as well as county staff for assisting us in going through these the issues, concerns, and we're at the beginning of all this. So thank you all very much for your help.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and the members of the CPAC for your attention and your comments and questions. Very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much again.
Chairperson Jones, I just wanted to let you know also for the record that there were no public comments for item number 1.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. All righty. Number 2, staff updates. Any staff updates, ladies and gentlemen?
Good evening again. This is Chris Bahuli. I do not have any staff updates for you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pahuli. Item number 3, council member comments. Anybody have anything further to add? All righty.
Oh, wait, I had one quick question. Sorry.
Sure, go, Chris.
I know I heard in the beginning that they talked about that the Board of Supervisors is doing a hybrid meeting. I just had a quick question. I didn't know if staff would even know this. Is that if and when we resume back into either a hybrid model or a, what do you call it? Whatever model we're going, in-person model, will we have some advanced notice of how that's going to be rolled out just so we can prepare accordingly? Because I'm just curious. Right now for my work, I've traveled and I used to keep the third Thursday of every month to be in town and this sort of thing. I just wondered if we were going to have any type of a kind of a notice of what will happen when it does change.
Sure. This is Florence Evans from the clerk's office. Yeah, we will definitely provide notice. And just for the record, it will be a hybrid format. So board members and or members of the public have the option to choose if they want to show up in person or join the meeting through Zoom or Blue Jeans.
Mm-hmm.
So you would still be able to participate remotely if needed.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you, Chris. A quick aside here is that we have a meeting at the Cordova Library, 9845 Folsom Boulevard, and it's not going to happen. That location, that venue, will not be readily available in the near future. We have to wait for the library to reopen their community room, and presently staff is using that community room as their offices so they can have appropriate distances in their working environment. So that's my understanding about the library. I do not know if county staff has another venue, but the library worked well for us, but it won't be available for a while. I'm thinking months.
Yes. This is Florence Evans again with the clerk's office, and we are looking at alternatives and are very aware of many of the different sites that we're working with, some of the limitations and so forth. And so we're still working with the county exec's office and getting direction in terms of other Cal OSHA requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you take that and CDC and also what the directives are for our county, it's very limited. And so we're trying to, one, for the clerk's office is to get staffing. We are facing, we're losing about 6 deputy clerks in our office who are promoting into other positions and leaving our department. And so one, we need the resources in order to do hybrid meetings. And two, we need to keep it equitable between all 14 CPACs and other hearing bodies who are waiting to start their in-person meetings. So that being said, I appreciate you providing that information, because that's one of the other hiccups that we're facing is the limited space, the limited facilities, because each of those facilities are not county facilities. So we're working with DGS and we're trying to figure out if we can find some alternative county locations that provides us some of the infrastructure that we need, such as internet connectivity and ensuring that we can have a continued internet security so that we can provide the broadcasting so that for those folks who aren't able to participate in person, they still have access to participate remotely, whether you're the member of the public or if you are a board member. We want to make sure that we ensure everyone's safety too, which is one of our higher priorities, and also for staff. So we're just trying to work through those kinks. As I reported out to the county executive and the county department heads, I don't anticipate that this would roll out until the end of end of August, early September, given that we're able to secure all of the sites and provide this alternative to all of the boards and not just one over the other. So we're working with each of the districts as well, because I know that supervisors are getting inquiries and would like to offer that as well to all of their CPACs. So thank you for your questions and for your understanding. And I really sincerely am asking for your support, because we're trying as hard as we can and we're moving as fast as we can through our own recruitment processes and trying to get as much support as we can, even from the district offices, county executive, and our personnel office in the county to help us get the resources that we need so that we can really actually run these meetings effectively and provide an opportunity for everyone to be able to participate.
Thank you very much for a very full and honest explication of what is going on. I think we all understand this. We all really do, and we appreciate all the efforts on the part of county staff to help facilitate these community discussions and outreach. So thank you all very much. Is there anything further from any of my fellow members or staff? Going once, twice. Thank you all for your participation tonight, and it was a good discussion, and I hereby adjourn this meeting. Thank you and have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Chairperson Jones, just want to also confirm that we do not have any off-agenda public comments.
No, I appreciate that. So I'll take back the adjournment. Are there any public comments? No. All righty. I think we're good now. But you had said that earlier, so I just went with it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.